Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
John, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
I'm a little clumsy out of the gate. Apparently, I don't know how to work a phone anymore.
Well, it's a new contraption.
Yeah, it's only been around since the 1890s or so, and these things, this new technology just gets to me.
Well, as long as we're on the air, I think we're okay.
Yeah, we're all good to go. I apologize for that slow start on my part. Here's what we're doing today, John. We've got a couple of interviews coming up with Caverna basketball coaches Blake Button and Cornelius Faulkner. I kind of want to explain to people how we're doing this year because of some restrictions in terms of getting people in studios and that kind of thing. So what we're doing is I'm recording the interviews with the coaches. We've got the Caverna coaches. We're talking to the Barron County coaches and the Glasgow coaches. We will air the interviews over the next 3 weeks, starting today. Barron County's coaches will air next Monday, and then Glasgow's will air on December 30th. We're kind of doing it that way because Caverna is their boys are going to play a game on that first Monday night, the 23rd, so we want to go ahead and get their interviews in here. Barron County is playing on November 28th, I believe it is, against South Warren, and so get their interviews in, and then Glasgow's not playing till December 1st, and so we can put their interviews up on the 30th. So that's what we're doing the next 3 weeks, try to get everybody ready for basketball season. As everybody knows, everything is still more or less a moving target in the high school sports world. So
yeah, cross your fingers. There, even in I've got a niece in Lexington, and I know they have just postponed all their practices for the next 2 weeks. So it's going to be it's probably going to be touch and go depending on where you are and what school district you're in, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. And also, there is a KHSAA board meeting on Wednesday. We will have some coverage of that on 104thescore.com. And I know there's a whole lot of space.
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Go ahead.
There will be high school basketball this year.
Yeah. I think one of the lessons we've actually learned from the fall sports is go ahead and start the seasons and get as much in as you possibly can. Because
that's what I think. Yeah, and I do. And I know the numbers are just outrageously bad right now, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, though. With some of these, the vaccines and things, they are coming. We just gotta hang in there.
Yeah, and it's been this way from the get-go with this particular school year and this season. Is that we just don't know exactly what's going to happen day to day, and people are just going to have to be patient and flexible. I think we've preached it every week now for about 6 months, John. So
yeah, that's a lot of patience.
Yeah, it is. But last week we celebrated Veterans Day on November 11th.
Right.
And the thing that I thought to myself all of Veterans Day was, you want to talk about people who have to have patience. It's people who have served in the military or who are in the military. And sacrifice. And I see some of these people complaining about the things that they or their children aren't getting to do. And I'm sorry, it's not that I don't feel sympathetic toward your issues. It's just that there are greater issues in the world. And sometimes it just doesn't seem like it, but that's just, because of the experiences of life. And I feel for them, and I feel for their children. And I'm a parent who had 2 children who played sports, and they were, more or less serious about it. Probably not, going to college serious playing, but they were serious about why they were in high school. And I can understand that it's a very emotional thing, and all the other things.
It is, it is tough. But I do think 2 things are possible. I do think we can continue with life and also wear a mask. I think both are very possible, but we got to do. But the mask wearing is really critical to slowing this down.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily mean for us to go down this rabbit hole, but here we are.
Yeah, we got some football we need to talk about.
Yeah, so and one of the things that had been affected by postponement was football playoffs. So we didn't have the playoffs this past Friday. But they do start this Friday, and as of right now, the way it works out is Glasgow will host Adair County on Friday night. There's I would say an extreme limitation on capacity. I think each school is going to get 130 vouchers, I think is that number, and really it's going to be very limited because Barron County is a red county in terms of the COVID designation. Adair County has twice canceled this game to come here and play. So it's been worked out. Glasgow will host Adair County at 7 o'clock on Friday. Barron County will travel to North Hardin. That game kicks off at 6:30 our time on Friday. You can hear Jay Turner and the crew on 103 Nash 103.7. And John, are you going to be going to this one this time?
I will not. Robert's going.
All right, yeah, because last time
you're only allowed so many people in the booth,
yeah.
and I think Robert is going.
Okay, so
Robert Bauer.
Yep. So it'll be Jay Turner and Robert Bauer on that call. So that's what we're looking at. I think on my notes here it says 13 teams have dropped out, but actually another one has dropped out. There's 14 teams have dropped out now from the playoffs. So, including Mason County, which was a 2 seed in their district. So that's the first one that was not a 4 or 3 seed to drop out. I suspect we may see more of that before we get to Friday. What do you think, John?
I think it's possible that that there's going to be, teams that could drop out. I think the teams that have already made that decision, not necessarily based on COVID, just for other things, have already made their decision.
Yeah.
The issue is going to be is, will there be any teams between now and Friday who actually, may have an infection or quarantine? That's going to make it a little bit more hairy. But I think the vast majority of the games that are scheduled are going to be played.
Yeah. It makes for an interesting thing. I mean, you and I talk about this, and others do every year, just about the number of teams in the playoffs. And I get that a lot of people look at the opportunity to go and play in the playoffs for their team as like a building block for them, maybe even propelling them forward, into the next season as a great experience for their players. But on the same time, this felt like the kind of year they needed to come up with some other plans.
Yeah, we've discussed that in the past that maybe this should have been the year where maybe not quite as many teams made the playoffs, which would actually shorten the rounds in playoffs. But they decided not to go that direction. So the good news with the Barron and North Hardin game is that North Hardin will be a prohibited favorite. They're the number 2 team in the state of Kentucky in 6A, but the last 3 times that Barron and North have played, the 2 times last year, including the playoffs, and this year, the games have been actually relatively close.
Yeah.
They have not been blown out, and Barron has been, competitive in all 3 games, and I think that should give the guys, enough confidence to go up there and to at least compete.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's kind of amazing when you look at it how well Barron has actually played against North Hardin. I tell you what we're going to do. We are going to go ahead and take the break right here, and then when you come back, we will hear from Blake Button, and then we will hear from Cornelius Faulkner. Blake Button's the new boys basketball coach at Caverna, and, of course, Cornelius Faulkner is the longtime girls basketball coach at Caverna. We'll be right back. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's in Glasgow.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We are here with Coach Blake Button, the first-year Caverna boys basketball coach again, so to speak. You've been at Caverna before, and you're reprising your role there now as the boys basketball coach of the Colonels. What kind of brings you back to the program now?
I always enjoyed being at Caverna, even the first time around. Kind of see it as a challenge. Small school.
Yeah.
You got to work with those kids, and you got to build your program pretty much. Instead of walking to a school, it's got 1,500 kids. We have less than 200 kids in our school, so you got to take what you got and build on it. And it's a challenge, and I love it. And I loved it when I was there the first time, and I've always wanted to come back and had an opportunity to at Christmas, so come on back at teaching, and just lucked out that we had a coaching open and took that job as well.
Now, you are not a Caverna graduate, though, right? Or you?
I'm not. I'm from Barron.
That's what I was thinking. But now you've got a lot of time spent in this neck of the woods, so it's not unfamiliar to you.
Yeah, spent a lot of time in the 4th region and going to Caverna even more in the 5th. So this area is home, pretty much. And I've always felt like Caverna was kind of home to me anyway. So it was a no-brainer to come back. Even though I'm from Barron, it was a no-brainer to go back to Caverna.
Right. Now we'll get to your team here in a little bit, because I mean you and your whole family have kind of been athletes growing up and everything. You and a couple of your brothers. You got a couple of sons coming up that play basketball. I think you guys were you all baseball players as well when you were growing up?
No. Brady played baseball. The rest of us, we were just kind of basketball.
Okay. So Brady was the one that was the all around kind of
do
every
played
sport
a couple
kind of
different
guy.
sports. Yeah.
All right. Well, so as you're looking at your team, I know you guys lost D. Richardson, you lost Drew Rhodes, you lost your big man inside. You had the key seniors, I guess, to the team. So who are some people who are coming back that you will be calling on to try to lead the way for you guys this year?
Yeah, we definitely lost. If you look back last year's team, you lost 4, big important seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely got a lot of open spots to fill, I guess you could say. I mean, we only have a few kids back from last year's team that seen much varsity time at all. I mean, we have Kenyon Wood, who started the majority of the games last year, a little small guard. He's more of a defensive player last year, so we kind of probably need him to step up the offensive side this year. And then we got Dax, my son, Dax Button. He transferred last year when I took the job over there, so he got to start a few varsity games last year and got some quality minutes. So kind of expected him to, instead of being that role player like he was last year with the seniors, probably step up. And, he's still going to be a role player and he's going to do whatever he needs to do, but we also need him to put the ball in the basket and play defense as well.
How about how many kids do you have out? I know things are a little bit strange this year. The combination of football playoffs and everything. And now I know Caverna's not going to do the football playoffs, so you're going to get some of those guys maybe earlier than you had originally anticipated. But about how many do you have coming into the program that are either new this year or, I guess, new or coming off the football team maybe that did not play last year?
I mean, I would probably say 75% of our kids
really
did not play basketball last year at Caverna. So, we've had a couple transfer in, and of course my kid coming in, and bringing up a couple middle school kids to help us out at the freshman JV, and I mean even maybe the varsity level if we need them to.
Right.
So I mean, the majority of the team is new, and that's one of the things we're kind of looking to see how the chemistry goes and see how they learn to play together.
When you look at the beginning, you guys are going to go ahead and start on November 23rd. That's officially the start day. I think a lot of teams are waiting that extra week until after Thanksgiving when I was looking just perusing the schedules. But you're going to go ahead and play that first game. What are some things you are looking for out of the gate for your team? I mean, what are some of the things you want that will show you where you guys are headed?
Well, we're kind of in a tough spot because we've not got to practice the last couple of weeks because we actually had, we had some COVID issues. So
right,
we've only had about 3 or 4 practices. So we're going to maybe have 7 or 8 practices before we play.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot to learn that time period. It's a lot to teach.
Right.
75% of your kids didn't play together last year. So getting all that to mesh and see who can do what and those amount of practices is going to be tough to see. So, and we got Foundation Christian Academy on that first Monday, and it's actually they wanted to do a 7th and a varsity game. So we're going to bring our 7th grade, which that's one of our better groups over at Caverna. So we're fine with playing that 7th grade game and then play a varsity game after that. So we're excited to see what both those groups can do.
Where is Foundation Christian?
It is in Bowling Green.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I've not seen it before. I guess they're kind of a new entrant to playing KHSA.
I believe they are. We were looking for a game because Fort Knox had canceled their basketball season.
Yeah, they shut down everything, right?
They did, and they reached out and said they had an opening that day. So we were going to play that day anyway, so we might as well go ahead and start. And then that'll give us time. We have all that Thanksgiving break until that next Monday to play again. So that'll give us time to almost like a scrimmage.
Right.
Except for it's an official game, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, scrimmages are few and far between this year, so
No,
I guess
not
your
gonna
official
happen
games
this
are
year.
your scrimmages in a lot of ways. So is there a style of basketball you want to play as a coach, you want your team to play?
I mean, in the past when I was at Caverna, we were usually a smaller team and quick, so we pressed a lot and trapped a lot and pushed the ball, try to get as many possessions as we can. Like I said, we've got a handful of practices in, so we're trying to figure out what our best style is. We're not going to be huge, but we're not going to be tiny either. We've got a decent mixture of size and quickness, so we'll figure it out in the next week or so, hopefully.
I feel like Coach Button, you and so many other coaches in the area are kind of in the same boat, just going to figure it out from day to day, week to week.
It's going to be a challenge for everybody, and usually I like to play up tempo. At the same time, I like to have my sets that we can run. So we'll see if they can learn and how they adjust to all that. As
you've kind of gotten your players ready for the season, is there a message about this particular season that you've given to them that may be different than you would have in the past?
Well, the first and most important right now is take care of yourself. Because just being silly and running out and like going to the haunted houses like this past couple of weeks and things like that, and not wearing masks. I mean, we know what can happen because it shut us down for 2 weeks.
Right.
So we've not practiced for 2 weeks. So that's the main focus coming in every day is wear your mask every day, make sure you're sanitizing your hands, washing your hands, taking care of yourself at home. If you're sick, don't come to practice. Let's figure it out what's going on first before we have you coming in and practice. So that's the first message, I think, for probably every coach right now.
Yeah.
Then after that, we're just going to talk about, playing hard. And, we're going to be young. We're going to probably start. Obviously, we don't know for sure because we've only had a handful of practices, but there's a good chance we're starting an 8th grader, a 9th grader, 2 10th graders, and a junior. So we're going to be young. None of them's played together hardly. Not much varsity time, so we're confident that we're going to win some games. I believe we will. I hope we will. But at the same time, we understand that we're not going to beat everybody. And we're probably going to have some bad nights and some rough nights, so we just got to learn from them. That's the most important thing.
I take it you feel good about the talent you have. It's just young talent that has to grow.
I am. Like I mentioned before, we got a good mixture. We got some good guards. We got a little bit of size this year, and the size has got guard skills. So, I mean, we can potentially put 5 guards on the floor pretty much all the time.
Right. What does your district look like this year from what you know?
I got to see a few district games last year. Of course, I wasn't coaching any last year at Caverna, so of course Hart County's got a nice young group, and I'm sure they're going to keep getting better every day. And LaRue County's always probably the favorite in the district. So, and Greene County's got a new coach back that we've coached several games against each other, and he's always got his team prepared, and they're always pretty solid and play hard. So, I mean, I think it'll be a pretty interesting district this year.
Yeah. Is there a favorite coming into the season from what you know, or just from what you saw last season?
I think everybody lost stuff. I mean, we lost a lot of kids. Hart lost a lot of kids. LaRue lost probably more than anybody. So I think it's just a toss-up to see who the new kids and the new talent, and we got new coaches in the district too. So we'll see how that all pans out.
It's a very fresh season in so many ways.
It really is.
And then as you look down your schedule, you mentioned that you're going to go ahead and get started with that Foundation Christian game. And then, I mean, not your very next game, but the next week, I guess, or week or so down the road. Yeah, it is the next week, isn't it? You guys open district against Hart County, which is just always a fun rivalry game there in the Caverna-Hart County matchup.
It really is. It's probably, in all my coaching and going to these different regions and different districts, that's probably the most intense rivalry I've ever seen in high school basketball.
Lots of families like to get together, but some are at Caverna and some are at Hart County.
They all go to church together. They all eat in the same place. They're all in the same community.
Right.
And when you go in that gym, they don't care much for each other.
Yeah, and then you still in December there, the next game after the Hart County, you guys are going to play Barron County. I imagine they are expected to be fairly good this year. They got a lot of good players coming back for them. So that's a pretty good matchup for you guys, pretty good test for you guys right off that rivalry game.
We do. We've got some good games scheduled early. I don't know a whole lot about Thomas Nelson. Then we got that rivalry game with Hart. And like you said, Barron's going to be solid. They always are. Cunningham does a great job with them. Then we go back and play Greene County again, and Coach Young will do great with them, have them prepared. So it's going to be an interesting start of the year.
Yeah, and I see here that you guys have your own. Well, the girls have a Christmas tournament scheduled, but you guys will be playing at the Wayne County Christmas tournament, I guess after Christmas tournament there, and then you guys are going to play in the Dale Hollow Classic at Cumberland County before Christmas. When you do those kinds of Christmas tournaments, what do you hope to gain from those kinds of tournaments?
When we were looking for teams or places to play, I was mostly focused on what our skill level was going to be. So there's no sense in us going to a tournament that has top 10 teams in the state, because I don't think we're a top 10 team in the state and get destroyed every night. So we were looking for smaller schools like us, and Cumberland County is a smaller school like we are, and he's got a couple more teams coming in similar to we are. So we just felt like those were good places for us to go and compete. Most of all, I mean, we want to compete every night and be competitive, and somewhere we can learn and get better too.
And then after the first of the year, you guys will be doing the All-A, 5th Region All-A, which is usually a pretty – I mean, Caverna's had some success in the 5th Region All-A through the years. Are there some markers beyond just finding out what your players can do as you look down your schedule? Are there some markers where you tell your players, here we're going to learn more about ourselves with this game or this tournament, that tournament kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, I think you kind of got to break the season up in segments, and with a limited amount of practices and no scrimmages, we're going to have to use those first couple of games as almost like scrimmages, and
right.
we want to win them, but we need to work on getting better those 2 games for sure, because we want to start off with Hart County and get a district win right off the bat. But going into All-A, it's something that we look forward to, and Caverna looks forward to, because we're a small school. It's hard for us to go out and compete in the region every year and play with those bigger schools. So we're excited about that. We're supposed to play Fort Knox in the first round, and obviously they've canceled their season. So we're automatically in the semis.
Right.
So that's good. We play Washington County, which we beat last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping to at least be in the finals of that and compete with whoever comes out on the other side of the bracket.
Right. Is there anything else about this particular season that you like people to know about your team, or just about the season in general?
I really think this team's going to play harder than you've seen them before. There's a lot of basketball IQ on this team, which I'm really excited about, because sometimes you get kids that they like to play, but they don't really know how to play. So
right.
We're excited about that.
Not real students of the game.
Right.
They just play the game.
And I think you have a lot of that. Even though we're not very experienced, they've played a lot of basketball, just not together at Caverna.
Mm-hmm. Now, I saw that there's going to be some capacity limitations for fans and that kind of stuff at Caverna home games. Is it like 15%?
Yeah, as right now it's 15%, and maybe hopefully that'll change as the season goes on.
Mm-hmm.
If the numbers get better with the COVID. But as right now, 15%, and then for us, 15% is different than if you go to Hart County or Barron or somewhere. So
yeah. We're
going to be limited to around 150 or so people probably in our gym.
Okay.
And we'll just split that up between whoever we play and our fans.
All right. Well, Coach Button, I want to thank you for coming in and talking to us, and good luck to you guys this season. We will cover as many games as we can possibly get to, and hopefully get the information so we can put it on our website, 104thescore.com, as the season goes along. So good luck to you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate everything y'all do.
You're welcome. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We are here on the Brown Sports Bag with Cornelius Faulkner, coach of the Lady Colonels. Coach Faulkner, last year you guys were overcoming quite a few injuries at the start of the season. I mean, I think you got your shooting guard never got back last year, and then Stacia Burnett was coming back from a knee injury. Got better as the year went along. The downside for you is that I think you lost your top 2 scorers.
I lost
last
my
year?
top 2 scorers and 2 of the top 3 rebounders. Stacia and Makia, they combined are 20-plus points a game and over 13 rebounds, so that was a big loss. But, yeah, we last year at the beginning, we lost my number 2 guard, Krista Gamboa, who's back this year, and then we lost Bradley Hotskins 5 or 6 games right before the Barron County game.
Right. Yeah, so, but as it turned out, you guys still managed to win that first-round district game. That 2 years in a row, probably people had counted you guys out, and you guys had some good wins at the close of the season. What was it during the course of the year that you guys were able to do to to overcome those struggles and get that district win.
The one thing that I feel like we do year in and year out, because we're so young, I'm always having to play 8th graders and 9th graders, and that's part of the culture over there because we're so small.
Yeah.
But so when we start out every year, we're always going to be young, inexperienced, and we'll have 2 or 3 older guys that kind of help out. But still, with the 2 or 3 guys that you need to depend on coming off the bench or the other starters, once they get, after Christmas, January, they get a little more experience. They kind of understand better what to do, our plays, our schemes, our defenses. Then we tend to do better. If you look at our record over the last 4 or 5 years, when I'm coaching, we may not start out the greatest, but we're going to always finish pretty good.
Right. Now let's look at this season. You mentioned that Gamboa will be back. Kayleana Richardson will be back.
Yes, our leading scorer at 17 points a game.
Yeah, I mean she's a key piece to whatever you want to try to do this year. Tavi Gonzalez will be back.
Yes.
So you got an inside presence. Who are some other players that are also returning this year that are new this year that you have that you're looking at to kind of fill in some gaps?
Well, the main folks that I'm going to plan on filling in gaps this year will be Bradley Hoskins, who was injured last year with ACL injury.
Yeah.
She's another junior that's going to have big minutes. She's probably going to be a starter, and she can play a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, after her, I'm going to, again, dip into my young kids, my freshmen and my 8th graders. Kiana Kirk could help me a lot. She's a 8th grader. I think Grace Shore will help me a little bit. She's an 8th grader in the post. Janiah Crane, be a little guard. That's the freshman, and Kaylin Scott. Mm-hmm. And then if Cadence Brown, this is an 8th grader now, remember the name.
All right.
If Cadence Brown develops like I think she will develop, she'll be another Kayleana Richardson type player.
Really?
And Kayleana Richardson now is 6'1".
Yeah, I walked past her in Walmart the other day, and I realized she was taller than me, Corn.
Yes.
And I was like, dang, she looks like she has actually grown from last year.
She has. She's 6'1", and she's filled out a little bit. She's got a little strong. We're doing a lot of weight training right now still. Even with the season starting, we're doing a lot of strength training because we got to get her stronger. But I think she, Gamboa, and Gonzalez will all three, and even Hodgkins, if she works hard enough, will have a chance to play at the next level.
Right. So, with that said, I mean, what are some of your expectations for this year?
My expectations starting out is we're going to struggle a little bit early. If we can pull out a couple of those early quick wins, the Barron County game is going to be a tough one. Hart County game is going to be a tough one. Hart's going to be probably a top 10 team in our region this year. Mm-hmm. With those guys, and who else do we play early? You
got
Greene
your
County's
first
early.
Week is there. You got 2 district games. You got Hart, and then Barron's in between. Then you play at Greene. I mean,
yeah, those three games will really let us know where we stand and what we need to work on.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good opening for you. You had good success against Hart last year.
I did
for the most part. You guys zoned them up some and ran that ball in the post a whole lot, didn't you?
Hart has a guard-oriented team. Uh-huh. They can go 5 out and anybody can handle the ball, but the key to beating or competing with Hart is handle their pressure, and you got to keep Dia Bradley out of the lane.
Yeah. She you guys did well against her in that first meeting, and then I think I saw her in a game. I don't remember if it was against you guys or not, but she lit it up, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what the deal is.
You have to keep a thumb on Dia.
Right. And talking about, your early schedule, we've already talked about. Now, you guys aren't playing on that first week. The girls aren't.
No, we're not. Yeah, we tried. I tried to reschedule, get a few games. Fort Knox is not having a season at all, any of their winter sports.
Right.
I tried to pick up a Butler County game, but it's not going to work out, I don't think. And I'm going to make one more call this week and see if I can get a game right before the Hart game. Very seriously doubt it. 2, I want to go see Mason play, and one of his games is that first weekend also. So.
Got you. So you guys opened that. We mentioned that Hart game. That's on December 4th is when that game will be played. And then the Barron County game's on December 8th at Greene. December 11th you play at Glasgow on December 14th. So you're right. You're right out of the gate. You're matched up with some teams that are going to really give you a measurement.
Yeah, before Christmas, it's always our first 10. I usually try to schedule our first 10 games, other than the district games, which we have to schedule. But I try to keep Barron, a Glasgow, a John Harden, a tougher teams early, because it really gives us an idea of what we need to do and work on. There's young kids, it's like throw them in the frying pan. I mean, the heat is up early, but they get a sense of, oh, this is, I'm going to have to do this to be able to even stay on the court. So,
right.
But I've got I tell you another little kid that I'm pretty impressed with right now is Jayana Knuckles. She's a little 7th grader who, she could be the future point guard of that program over. She's pretty talented.
Right. You played your other district game, LaRue County, on December 18th. Then you guys host a post-Christmas tournament,
yes,
right?
Yes. Kentucky KY Sports Christmas Classic. Last year was our first time having one.
Yeah.
We're going to have our second tournament this year. Right now I've got 6 teams. I'm still trying to find 2 more teams. I like to have 8 teams to make it work perfect. 6 teams will work, but I like to get 8. But I've got some teams returning. Camel's returning. I've got North Hardin, Caverna, Shawnee, Iroquois out of Louisville, both those teams out of Louisville, Edmonson County. So those 6 teams I already have, but I still need 2 more teams to make it kind of fly. But the thing is, with this COVID-19, we don't know. I mean, if something were to happen where a county stays red, like Jefferson County is not going to let their teams travel if they're red at that time.
Right.
And I already kind of know that. So if that happens, that week of, I'll have to cancel the week of. But, I mean, everybody kind of knows that everything's day-to-day at this point, so.
Well, would you be in a position to sort of like as happening in football where it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to play in that particular tournament, but then you might get a call from somebody and say, hey, can we come play in yours?
Yeah, and I think the Kentucky High School Athletic Association has offered us or allowed us to do the waiver thing a little bit easier this year if you need to cancel out one and try to get in another and not be like contractual problems. I think they've actually done that. So,
well, that's good. I mean, because flexibility is key this year.
Yes. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
And then you guys are doing the All-A thing again this year and have had some pretty good runs in that particular tournament as well through the years.
We got a great draw this year, too. I mean,
Really?
a wonderful draw. But, again, it's going to depend on, the experience level and how those kids are playing at that time. And I think by January, I think we'll be playing some decent ball.
Yeah.
February, I know we will if we get to play, but by January, if we don't have to quarantine too many times and that kind of thing, because if you quarantine, it's 2 weeks off, you're off. You can't do anything. So, and you can lose a lot in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can. So just generally, let's pretend we're not going to have to worry about the COVID stuff. Let's pretend this for a minute, all right?
Okay.
All right. So what are your kind of overall expectations for your team this particular season?
One, I hope that we can, win 50% of our games or better. I always want to get to 50%. But again, being young as we are, I'm a realist. I think those kids will be better by the end of the season, get stronger, get faster. And then I want to do well in All-A as always, but I'd like to win the district. I mean, I don't think, it's Green and Hart, probably your 1 or 2, 1 and 2. I don't know which one's going to be 1. But we'll be in the mix with them by the end of the season. So, I'm always looking to try to get to the championship of the district and see what happens.
Now, back to the fact that this is an unusual season, I'm basically asking these coaches all this question. What is the message to your players as you guys are trying to get ready to play this season?
Just be prepared. Be prepared for anything. I mean, you got to stay ready. No matter if it's if we have a game or a game is canceled or we pick up a game out of the blue, you got to be ready to go and be ready to play. So that's getting your body in a different situation this time. And that, another reason you asked this question earlier, another reason why I think we don't have the super success early is because I've got so many kids who play so many different sports, but to get in basketball shape, it takes, by the time they finish volleyball or whatever, it takes me a month and a half to get them, December to get in some playing basketball shape.
Right.
And you saw that with Stacia last year. She played volleyball, started back with volleyball, but her knee being like it was, it still took her until Class A time to really get back in that basketball where you could see it.
Yeah. You don't just serve as the basketball coach. You also serve as superintendent for Caverna.
Yes.
And before we did this, before you came in, you said this was your opportunity to kind of, when you're coaching basketball, a stress reliever for you, which I think a lot of people might find odd.
Yeah. When you don't have that day-to-day stress of students, faculty, staff, transportation, family resource, youth service center. When you don't have all those things going on in your mind with the stress of, is everything okay today? Mm-hmm. How are things going in the schools? And then you add this COVID on top of it, basketball is easy compared to those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm out on the court coaching, that's where I'm good. Mm-hmm. That's my safe haven. I'm just, it's like being in church. I'm good. Once I get on the court.
Well, Corn, I want to thank you for coming in and talking to us here on the Brown Sports Bag. I'm looking forward to covering you guys again this season. It was a lot of fun covering your team last year. It's always a lot of fun because what happens, I like to see that transition your teams seem to go through every year, as we've talked about, from that beginning, kind of sometimes a little bit ragged, that kind of
looks
thing.
rough.
And then you guys get to the end of the year and things are clicking pretty well for you, and it's great to see those kind of developments.
Well, we appreciate everything you do for us, and you keep it up. The outlet that you give us sometimes with the photos, the Twitter stuff, and the Facebook stuff, all the stuff that you do, it helps because the bigger outlets in our area don't tend to do that for us. Now, they'll call us and ask us questions and want us to fill out things for the Miss Basketballs and the All-State, recommendations. But, for small schools and these rural areas, without what you do, it'd be hard for us to do what we do to get these kids to the next level.
Well, I appreciate that, Corn. I've enjoyed doing it for 25 years of my life so far.
I hope you keep doing it for 25 more.
I hope I'm here for 25 more, man. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're back on the Brown Sports Bag. Thank you to coaches Blake Button and Cornelius Faulkner for coming by and chatting with me to talk about the upcoming basketball season. John, let's go ahead and jump on some of this thoughts about the coming basketball season that are not COVID-related, as we've already kind of discussed at the opening, if you missed that. We'll get back to the 5th region here in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about the 4th region. I think going into, at the end of last season, if you were to look at the teams, what was coming back on boys and girls, you would say that Bowling Green was going to be the team to beat in both of those.
Both boys and girls will be top 5 in the state, I predict, unless something has happened I'm not aware of.
Well, I think that's still true for the boys, but of course, Sanaya Shelton has gone to Warren Central, which is where she'll be playing basketball this year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that kind of shakes things up on the girls' side, I think. I don't know. I mean, because she is the player that was the most difficult, I think, to defend. And also, as we saw last year, when Barron played Bowling Green in the regional tournament, they stuck Sanaya Shelton on Elizabeth Bertram, and, that was very hard for Elizabeth to deal with, as good of an offensive player she was. So, I mean, that definitely – they still have Meadow Tisdale and plenty of other good players, but she seemed to be the difference maker on both ends of the floor for Bowling Green last year. And that makes things a little more interesting in the 14th district, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was not aware of that, to be honest with you. It's Bowling Green has been – they've gotten more players than they've lost, I'll say that. But they're still – they're still a top 20 team. I guess I'll knock them down a little bit, but they're still the prohibitive favorite.
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't know if anybody outside of the 14th district this particular year can challenge them. I think Barron will have a good team. I think Allen County should be better than they were last year. They basically bring back everybody who was a critical player for them from last year. We're talking about girls here. And, I think maybe in the 16th district, we'll see how Russell County pans out. I mean, they did well in that regional tournament last year. They got that first round win over Glasgow.
They did.
And I think they had a number of players coming back as well.
Metcalf has them all back.
Metcalf has them all back. So
evidently Warren Central will be good.
Well, I'm here to tell you that I didn't think they were that bad last year. Mm-hmm. They were turning the corner under Joe Hood. He, of course, resigned. They have a new coach, Anthony Hickey.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
Glasgow, Adwell's back.
Yep.
So
Ansley is back. The downside for Glasgow is 2 of the 3 people they probably expected to start this year, Nina McMurtry and Dynasty Page, aren't playing. And I'm not sure. Maybe Nina's focusing on golf. I'm not sure why Dynasty's not playing. So basically, Ansley is the only fully experienced player they do have back.
Yeah, that makes it tough.
It does.
But Bowling Green is still. I mean, anytime that you're defending regional champions and you have almost all your players back, now that's a big loss.
Yeah.
And losing that girl to Central, that is a big loss. But still, they're still loaded, and they still have at least 2 Division I players that I can think of off the top of my head that's going to be in their lineup. And it's if you get 1 Division I, that's a rarity. 2, that's a luxury.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that Meadow Tisdale is still there, and she is just a sophomore, which is just amazing when you see her play. Just physically, I mean, she's just so imposing
I was
physically.
Extremely impressed with her last year.
Yeah, I saw her at a camp this summer playing, and she's been working on her ball handling and all the things that were her weaknesses.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just a terrifying thought to
and they had the 6'2", 6'3" kid back. And
yes.
she's back as well.
That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah, and they still have a couple of really good guards who will be back. On the boys' side, I just don't think there's any more clearer favorite than Bowling Green.
I agree.
They lost no one.
I agree, and they've got that experience back. They've got Division I player back,
Isaiah Mason,
and you combine that with the loss of a lot of kids from Warren Central who graduated, and it elevates Bowling Green. You know, they've just been a play away from being in the state tournament the last three years.
Right.
And they've unfortunately gotten beat by Warren Central each of the years. They beat them in the district, but they've lost the final game to Central.
Yeah.
So you got that, and you got Coach Sherrill coming back.
Right.
You know, and I don't think he was coming back to coach a bad team.
No, he smells championship possibilities there, doesn't he?
You know, he's got that experience. He's obviously a great coach, and it will take a lot to knock them off.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Warren Central. I mean, they did lose a lot. They also picked up a couple of players, one of them being Jace Carver, moved over from South Warren, but – And they always seem to surprise me every year because every year.
Well, I mean, first of all, they're well coached.
Yes.
They've got a really good freshman team from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Freshman or JV team, I think, was undefeated.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest with you, they tend to get a transfer or two.
Mm-hmm.
And not a bad one either.
No, I would say the amazing thing about them was, you know, there was a lot of talk about the number of transfers they got a couple of years ago.
7.
And 2 of them really stood out: Kobe Brents and Dre Boyd.
Yep.
But the other 5 of them had not played at other schools. I mean, they weren't coming over as stars from other schools, but I mean, they obviously had an impact.
They did.
But let's drill down a little bit closer then to the 15th district on the boys' side. There's no doubt that Glasgow losing 7 seniors, I think it was, and Monroe County are both kind of in the same boat. They're probably in rebuilding. I think Glasgow has a number of sophomores on their roster. So those 2 juniors and sophomores may be on their roster. And so those 2 teams seem to be the ones that are going to be in rebuilding mode this year, John.
I think that is fair.
Yeah.
And with Barron, I think it's Barron and Allen will be the 2 obviously favorites. And I think Barron and Allen are I think you can possibly put both teams. I think it's fair that you could put Barron maybe top 5 in the region.
Mm-hmm.
A big team. I mean, Barron is really, really big. I mean, they've got a couple 6'4", 6'6", 6'7" kids on their team.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Aiden Niken, who'll be one of the best players in the region back, and you got Withrow Gavin, who will be a 4-year starter back, and so you have a lot of the key pieces from last year. I think Barron should be really good. Should be a great rebounding team. Question with Barron is, can they get consistent outside shooting? That has been their probably the weakness in the last couple of years, and that's something that they, especially when you got size, you need to have some consistent outside shooting, and I think that's the question. And of course, Allen's got that point guard that's back, Shirley, who's a heck of a player and who has just been a thorn in a lot of people's side. I mean, he's a really, really good player. He can make shots, and the thing about Shirley is not only can he make shots, he makes big shots, and he has that. I think that flair, some would call it confidence to play.
Yeah.
And he makes his team better, and that's a compliment.
Mason Shirley is the kind of player that he's on the other team, and every coach wishes they had him, but they hate him at the same time.
Well,
probably, just because he does bring so much energy to the game, the competition.
He does.
Itself.
He has that appeal to him where I like watching him play because I like watching good point guard play. But he has that flair to him. He's not scared of the big moment, and he's not afraid to show his emotion.
Right. So Allen and Barron, I think, are the clear favorites going into the season in the 15th district. If not for Bowling Green, I'd say both of them would be a threat to win the 4th region. They have the talent and the potential. They do both have weaknesses, that preclude them probably from unless something amazing happens, beating Bowling Green this year. But I would put them right in the mix otherwise. Then also on the girls' side in the 15th district, I just, we've already talked about it a little bit, but I just don't know exactly how the season's going to go because I think probably the best individual player plays for Glasgow, Ansley Adwell, just all the way around basketball player. But, Barron has 2 or 3 good players coming back that got experience, especially when you're talking about Katie Murphy and Raven Ennis, John.
Yeah, I think Barron is the favorite. Mm-hmm. I think Barron's top 3 in the region.
Right.
They got the point guard in Murphy, but Raven Ennis proved last year that she's one of the better players in the region.
Right.
She averaged 15, 16 points a game last year, and, she can make threes and she can rebound, and Barron plays a lot of people, and my Macy Lockhart, I was going to say my Amanda Galloway was one of my better players of all time. That's Macy's mother, and she's going to, I think, will take a giant step forward as well. Piper has a really good program, and they've got a good feeder system. And I think Barron will be really, really good. Now, can they compete with Bowling Green? That's the question. Can they take that step and compete against those top echelon teams? I'm not for sure.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be one of the better teams.
I guess also the upside for Barron is it's mostly still a young team in so many areas.
They are. They're young. They've got their share of seniors, but they have a lot of their key players in particular tend to be freshmen. Sophomore, I think Raven's a junior,
mm-hmm.
But they should be well balanced, and Piper do a good job with them. They'll be, I think, they'll be the favorite to win this district.
Yeah, when you look at the other districts there around, are there any other teams that we're kind of missing on the 16th or the 13th that you think
in girls,
in girls or boys, whichever?
The girls' sneaky one's always Russell County.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Metcalf. Metcalf's got if they can rebound and guard a little bit better, they've got some really good players and good shooters. I think they have an opportunity. And boys, it's just I think Greenwood's probably should be good, but
mm-hmm.
it's just I can't see anybody in the Logan County district that will be a threat. And I really think it's Barron, Allen, and then you throw the Bowling Green district.
Yep. Well, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.